At first, life was a fairy tale for Heather Grossman. She was married to a wonderful man, raising 3 beautiful children with wealth and privilege. It wouldn't last forever. One fateful day, it all came to a shattering end. Only 11 years before, beautiful Heather Stevens was a flight attendant when she met wealthy car dealership owner Ron Samuels.
I met Ron on a flight that I was working.
Samuels was 17 years her senior, but by the end of the flight, Ron was determined to make Heather his wife.
I didn't give him my number, but he was persistent enough to find it. He was generous, loving type of person, and we, just started dating.
Eventually, they married and moved to Florida. Soon, a family followed, a son, Ronnie, and later, twins, Lauren and Joseph.
But after the children came along, so did the cracks in the marriage. Heather told our Melissa Moore something in Ron shifted.
He became very controlling. He wanted to know where I was at all times, and if I didn't answer my cell phone, I was going to be in big trouble.
The change took Heather by surprise. Now, there were consequences for getting in trouble.
Throwing hangers at me, picking me up, physically throwing me against a wall.
It got worse.
What was the final straw?
When he held the gun to my head and said, if I leave him, he was going to kill me.
Like so many women trapped in a nightmare of domestic violence, Heather knew she had to protect her children. She found the strength to leave and soon filed for divorce. But walking away was easy compared to facing Ron in court.
After you left Ron, how much worse did the abuse get?
Ron Samuels was determined to hurt me. He was a monster before, but he became absolutely worse. I kept physical custody of the children. He wanted to take my children away from me.
I remember when my parents would switch custody back and forth between each other, and there always had to be police officers present, so there was obviously tension.
Despite constant legal abuse, Heather tried to move on. That's when she met John Grossman. His father was reportedly one of the richest men in Minnesota. John swept Heather off her feet.
We enjoyed going to the theater, dancing, going to the opera.
This time, Heather had married her true Prince Charming.
He was the father figure in my life. I loved him.
He was encouraging. He was trying to fill the role of a dad.
Ron didn't take it well.
I would say he went ballistic.
The custody battle escalated.
Ron was definitely trying to get us to talk to the police that they were abusing us.
He wanted me to tell them that John had touched me inappropriately because he wanted to win custody of us.
Back in court, Heather told the judge she feared for her life.
I told him, my husband and I are getting death threats. I'm terrified that something's going to happen and he's going to kill me.
6 days later, she would be proven right. Heather and John were on their way to lunch when they stopped for a red light. A car pulled up next to them.
I wanted to lean down to get something out of my briefcase. And when I came back up,
multiple shots rang out.
Immediately, I knew there was something wrong.
A bullet pierced the window, making direct contact.
911, do you have an emergency? Yes, we do. We have shooting in a car.
Heather was shot in the spinal cord.
I felt my body shutting down. I tried to yell out for help. Help wouldn't come out.
Another bullet hit John, grazing his chin. Heather died at the scene. Paramedics brought her back. Despite the pain and chaos, nothing could prevent her one lucid thought.
I knew the moment the bullet hit my neck that Ron got me.
After a lengthy hospital stay, Heather's new reality was this. She was now a quadriplegic, paralysed from the neck down. She would require constant care, but John would be her rock.
He was loving. If there was anything he could do to make my situation better, he was going to do that.
7 months after the shooting, cops were ready to arrest Ron Samuels, but he'd fled the country.
Ronald Samuels wound up in Mexico. He was in jail, in prison in Mexico for trafficking in cocaine.
Before facing murder charges in Florida, Mexico required that Ron finish his prison time. As Heather and her family waited for justice, they tried to get on with their lives. But agony and torment were about to revisit in a place even closer to home.
At some point, John turned abusive. What do you think happened?
I don't know if he couldn't take what happened to me very well. Maybe 3 years after I was shot, he just became abusive. It was very scary.
Heather's once loving protector became her next alleged abuser.
He would spit on me. He would take me away from the nurses, and he literally was punching me in my chest. I had bruises. I would cry, and I couldn't breathe, and it was like, I don't care.
I can recall him stabbing my mom with forks.
He threw dog crap on her from the yard.
Heather says John became abusive with the kids.
He would pick my daughter up by her hair and pull her across the floor.
With John's father paying for Heather's $250,000 yearly medical bills, she felt helpless. This time, she couldn't leave.
I felt trapped. I was the perfect victim. I couldn't walk out and leave.
But Heather found the strength once again.
I was scared that if I didn't leave, he might kill me.
The day she filed for divorce, cops removed John from the home.
They had collected 700 pages of documented abuse against me from past nurses.
Ultimately, the charges against John Grossman went nowhere. In 2005, he died of a heart attack. That same year, Ron Samuels finished his time in Mexico and was back in Florida, facing trial on 7 felony counts, including first-degree murder. His 4 co-conspirators, including the shooter, were granted immunity.
The Grossmans requested that we go ahead and give immunity to the persons who were the puppets in order to have a viable case against the puppet master.
The puppet master, Ron Samuels, was found guilty and sentenced to life. Heather could finally move forward, free from violence, control and fear.
I'm a survivor. When I look back, I feel proud that I left the situations I was in. Nobody deserves to be a victim of domestic violence.
What a strong woman Heather Grossman is. Not only to have survived this, but to have a family that has thrived. It's a tribute to her as a person.
My mom is literally the best parent I could have ever imagined having or wished to have. She inspires me every day to be better, to be a better person, to work hard, to stand up for what's right.
In the end, Heather's life was not the fairy tale she dreamed of, but her courageous story is still being written.
And in fact, that story of courage has been written. Heather Grossman has completed a book called Paralysed in Paradise to help other victims of domestic violence. And if you need help, or you know someone who needs help dealing with an abusive relationship, we've put all the information on who you can call at our website. That's crimewatchdaily.com.